Hello everyone, I am back with another video, a video that should have gone up on February the 28th, but it didn't because I didn't get around to this until just now, March 2nd. But, you know, better late than never. Also, a new thing that I'm going to do, and it's just so, you know, I can justify the different amount of weird nerd shirts that I own. I'm gonna start showing these off. I have my Nightmare on, I can't back up. I'm wearing a Nightmare on Elm Street shirt because I love that franchise. So, yeah, expect to see random nerd shirts from time to time. Anyway, what you're actually here for, if you're here at all, we're going to talk... Excuse me, that's great audio. I'm here to talk about the books that I read in February. Excuse me again. One actual change that y'all probably will care about is, I'm not really going to read off the dates that I read these things, just because I feel like it's kind of tedious and boring. Most people don't really care. But I'm still going to keep track of it just for me. So there is that. Anyway, let's get into it. The other thing, if I read stuff like through audio, I'm not really going to show off like the screenshots of like the Audible thing or whatever. I'm just going to talk about the book. Better than just, you know, holding my phone up for all of y'all. Anyway, let's actually get right into it now. We're 2 minutes into this. The first one that I kicked February off with, and this meant that I had to spend the last few days in January actually finishing the animated series, was Avatar: The Legend of Korra Ruins of the Empire. So I never actually finished the Legend of Korra series. I meant to, I never did. And then when I seen that this book, because I read Turf Wars, and it was fine. I already knew the whole thing about Korra and Asami, them getting together. I actually thought that the spirit portal they went through was something else. I don't remember what I thought it was, but I did not, you know, for whatever reason, my brain didn't remember that the spirit portal was not in Republic City. So yeah, there was that. But when I saw that this one heavily dealt with characters and events that happened at the end in the last season of Legend of Korra, I was like, should probably actually finish the show. Anyway, this book deals with, naturally, Kuvira and remnants of the Earth Empire, her army that did not stand down despite her surrender to Korra at the end of the series. Excuse me. Overall, I did enjoy the book. I feel like it brought in a couple of like ideas that were kind of just left out in the wind from the last season, particularly Kuvira's re-education camp thing that she kept mentioning. That did get brought up again. And one kind of complaint that I have, and honestly, this is kind of a complaint for the Avatar series, because now they've done it twice. And that is what I feel like are unnecessary redemption arcs. Like, anyone seen in the original series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, knows that Zuko's redemption arc is one of, if not the best, redemption arc in modern media. And it seems like in some of the more, some of the expanded material comics, namely comics, given the two I'm about to talk about, it seems like they might be trying to sort of give other villains like Kuvira and like Azula, start to like peel the back that, you know what, maybe they can be redeemed, maybe they're not all the way, you know, bad. Which, I mean, arguments could be made that Kuvira, you know, wanting the entire Earth Kingdom to be reunited, she just went about it a very, very horrible way. But, you know, Azula's fucking batshit insane, and, you know, she's a villain. And in Azula and the Spirit Temple, they kind of nudge her just a little bit closer to maybe trying to redeem her in a later thing. Kuvira, they definitely kind of do that in this book. And it's, I guess I should say spoilers. Oops. And that Kuvira helps out Team Avatar. And, yeah, she still goes to jail at the end and all that, but it's like, hey, we kind of forgive you. We're going to work with you to, you know, make sure that, you know, maybe you can be a better person and, you know, still family to us, that sort of thing. So, overall, still a decent book, though I think it's highlighting a couple of issues that the Avatar universe might be having. I don't know. Let's see if they try to pull the same trick in the New Earth series. And I didn't, you know, put my phone on silent. 6 minutes in, and I only talked about one book. Oh boy, we're going to be here a while. The next one that I read, or in this case, listened to, and oh boy, do I have a thing to tell you about how I listened to it, because it was a treat, was The Angel of Khan el-Khalili by P. Jelly Clark. This one was audio-based. It's a short story set in his Dead Jin universe, which I prior to that had just recently heard that there was another short story, aside from, you know, Dead Jin in Cairo. And, the way I listened to it, I was just going to read it on text on, like, Tor.com or whatever the new site's called. But I had seen where, LeVar Burton of Reading Rainbow and Star Trek Next Generation fame, along with God only knows what else that man has done, he had actually read the story as part of a podcast that he does. If I had a way to look it up and put it in the show notes, I would, but that's too much time that I don't want to do. So just look up LeVar Burton podcast. He has a whole thing where he just, like, reads stories. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a treat. I really enjoyed it. The story was a little predictable. I kind of saw, like, the big reveal coming. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It still was enjoyable. Especially, you know, in the voice of, you know, Geordi. And also, I'm now terrified of the angels of the Dead Jin universe. Holy shit. Again, still hope Mr. Clark writes more of those. Then the next audio novel on my list. This one was actually a DNF. And it's the only DNF in the month of February. So, I did good there. In this case, it was The Queen of the Damned by Anne Rice, the third of the Vampire Chronicles, and the last one that I was going to read. I had listened to Interview with the Vampire and The Vampire Lestat, and while her take on vampires is not, you know, really my thing, and by her take, I mean I can summarize Interview with the Vampire as a story where a guy insists and tells you why immortality sucks through a 200-year-long story about him and his vampire boyfriend. And I am not incorrect. I listened to the first two. I did like listening to the first two, but for whatever reason, when I started listening to The Queen of the Damned, I just couldn't. I got towards the ending of the first part, I think, and it just was not grabbing me. I couldn't listen to it, so I DNF'd this one. That's no disrespect to Miss Rice, who I believe is dead now, but that's no disrespect to her or her work. If you like vampires, which I do, but if you like vampires, maybe give it a shot if you haven't already. Might be your thing. You're going to be seeing me take drinks a lot during this, just because reasons. Then next we have The Hunted by Gabriel Bergmoser, which a thriller set in the Australian outback. I never knew I wanted these until I actually started reading some of his work. So I really like this book. I really wish that I could keep reading his stuff. He has another novel coming out later this year, but man, would you believe it's hard to get a hold of Australian published books here in the States? Would you believe that's a pain? There's one that will get brought up eventually back there, which, oh boy, the pain in the ass it was getting hold of that one. But anyway, while a few of his novels have different characters that sort of, crossover, cross-pollinate, this one was the first of the Hunted series to feature his main protagonist, Maggie. And holy shit, is she a spitfire of a character. I love Maggie. She's... oh boy, she is something. I will warn you, this book is violent. This book is kind of fucked in a lot of areas. It's basically like a fucking... not really a farmhouse, because, good luck farming in the Australian outback. But basically a farmhouse is surrounded by a group of, murderers. And it's Maggie and a group of... Maggie, who is, seriously wounded for reasons that gets brought up in the book. It's her and a few other people trying to survive against them for the night. And it is a thrill ride. I actually finished this book in 3 days. Yeah, 3 days. That is... granted, it's not a big book, but yeah. That is how unputdownable this book was. Then next, we had the recently trade paperback published Star Wars comic Jango Fett Trail of Lost Hope. It's a Jango Fett book. It's him on a mission. Aurra Sing shows up. I don't think that's a spoiler. It's pretty alright. I thought it was fine. It didn't really disappoint me like the last book I read, like the last comic that I read, which was a Mace Windu one, and oh boy, the fact that disappointed me. I don't know, maybe I'll do a video talking about how I feel about Star Wars in the year of our Lord 2025. But that's not what you're here for. You're here for books. And the next book was another comic, one that I backed the Kickstarter on, one that I am 18 bucks deep, and I'm gonna finish it. And I'm gonna finish it through books, even though I know I could finish it online. But I'm not gonna do that, because I don't wanna. And that is the 18th volume of Schlock Mercenary, the Mandatory Failure by Howard Taylor. I love the Schlock books. They're fun. They're funny. This one was interesting in that, it tries to start as a, hey, we're not going to be violent on this mission because, political reasons, and then shit goes to hell kind of quickly. The Jango Fett book was written by Ethan Sachs. Try to credit these authors. But yeah, it's fun. I'm looking forward to the next book whenever it gets kickstarted. Function of Firepower. And there's one more, and then the series will be done. The next one was a bit of a chunker, hoo boy. And that is Nick Martel's The Voyage of the Forgotten, the third book in his Legacy of the Mercenary King series. this is a series that I probably should have read back to back, even though they are chunkers. Because, oh boy, with the amount of time that there was between each book that I read, I ironically forgot stuff. And the reason that's ironic is because memory is a key factor in these books. It's linked into the magic system, it's linked into the narration, so it's ironic that I was forgetting things. And there's no real, fan wikis for these books, which is a damn shame, because, man, I feel like that would be so fucking helpful. But, then again, not every book series has, a ravenous fan base poring over details and making connections like, the fucking Cosmere. But, anyway, so the thing with this book, The Voyage of the Forgotten, I like it, and it has some serious flaws if Nick does not write more. If The Legacy of the Mercenary King is meant to be a trilogy, in one way it succeeds, because it does, deal with the story of Michael Kingman. And in other ways, it fails, because Nick Martell sets up a lot for either a continuation, or a spin-off, or something. There is a lot of setup in this book, and a lot of touching upon things that really feel like, it's leaning in the direction of a sequel, or more. And so, if Mr. Martell is going to do more of these, my problem goes away, then I think this book's really good. If he doesn't, then, and this series is one of my favorites. I really like this series. But time will tell how my feelings evolve on it. Then next, and this one was kind of a bathroom book while I was reading The Voyage of the Forgotten, we have J.R.R. Tolkien's Wow, you can't read that at all. Okay, you can now read it. Facing Natural Light. The Fall of Gondolin. It's another edited by Christopher Tolkien book. With material put together that, his father had written. There is a part of me that wishes Tolkien had gotten around to... had not really spent, 20 years... building the world of The Lord of the Rings, building the world of Middle-earth, and had spent more time, making more books. But at the same time, we do have a lot of his materials, and it's fascinating reading some of these. Which also then brings me to stuff that he did not finish, that is not really in a finished state, and that should tell you what this is. Unfinished Tales, J.R.R. Tolkien. This was also kind of a bathroom book while reading Voyage of the Forgotten. And as such, I don't really have a whole lot to say. But I do believe that did finish Middle-earth. I think. I don't think I have any more on there. And I did finish catching up. To Dead Gin Universe. And I DNF Vampire Chronicles. Sorry, this is more for the board later. Next, we had a couple audiobooks back to back. And one was Children of Ruin by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Which, man, that book got way more horror-y than I was expecting, at least at first. Then there was Deliver Us from Evil by J.F. Sawyer, a audiobook detailing events from the case files of Adam Lorraine Warren, which those things fascinate me. And your mileage may vary whether or not, depending on what your opinion of the Warrens is, and the supernatural in general. And then we got the last real book of February, which, man, I plowed through this probably faster than I should have. But we have the third volume in The Sun Eater, Demon in White, by Christopher Ruocchio. Hoo boy, this book is a chonker, and I am so glad that Kingdoms of Death, which I have just started, I just started it the other night, is shorter. But it's still fun. These books keep getting better and better. We got a date and pre-order for the final book in the series, Shadows Upon Time. I got some catching up to do, because I want to be reading Shadows Upon Time in November/December, when that does release. And then I capped off the rest of February with some comics. I did a bunch of back-to-back, 3 back-to-back Scott Snyder Batman books, which include Death of the Family, which, man, this book kind of has me realizing that if, with Batman, or if he, got a bit more, what's the word, serious? Why so serious? He'd be horrifying. He's already kind of horrifying, just as a concept. But, like, if he really just cut loose, he's a horror character. And then I did the 2 sort of origin of Batman in the New 52 books. 0 Year, Secret City, and then 0 Year, Dark City. Which these are, you know, when he first becomes Batman in the city of Gotham, and his actual first confrontation with both, in this case, Red Hood, which I believe in New 52 is what they're going with the origin story for Joker is, and with the Riddler, which I did not know until reading these books that, spoiler for the Robert Pattinson Batman film, the finale of that, where Riddler floods Gotham, that's actually a thing that happens in these books. So, although I think it made a bit more sense in these comics than it did in the Pattinson movie. I still really like that movie, but there's some flaws. Really hoping we get that sequel. We probably won't. Thank you, James Gunn. That's a sarcastic thank you, by the way. But as I think I talked about in one of my videos talking about 2024, The Penguin Show. Really good. But anyway, that's it. That's all I've got for February 2025. Let's see, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, with 1 DNF. So 14 total? Not bad, not bad. Although I think that basically means I went through like 2 a day. Or 1 every 2 days. That's not at all how that pans out with what I'm looking at here, but I'm not going to bore you with any of that. Anyway, time to check in with my goal of finishing series. How does my board look? In this case, we are slowly getting some blanks. One that I did decide to just erase was the Dark Knight's Metal comic. I decided I didn't care, and that I wasn't going to finish it. I really like the book that has like the origins for the Dark Batman. I think I'm going to keep that one as a standalone, but as far as the rest of the middle story, I feel like I'd have to do a lot more jumping around between individual trade paperbacks, or spend more than I want to on the omnibus that probably puts the whole thing in chronological order. And honestly, Metal didn't really, do it for me, I guess, in that regard, to make me actually consider doing that. So, yeah. So anyway, that's all. Hopefully I will see you at the actual end of March, as opposed to, the beginning of April, like I'm doing now. So, anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless all you and all yours. And if that's not your thing, hopefully you have a good day. And I will see y'all. Put my board down so I can actually, turn the camera off. I'll see y'all in the next one.